Hello and welcome back to the Choose UCalgary Podcast. As always, I'm your Season 8 host, Karah, and today we're sitting down with some of the undergraduate students in the Canid Conservation Science Lab and the Living with Wildlife Initiative under the direction of Dr. Shelley Alexander. The Canid Conservation Science Lab works to understand and coexist with wildlife on campus, and the Living with Wildlife Initiative aims to educate the community around us about the different wildlife that lives on the UCalgary campus and how to safely live with them. With students working in volunteer positions all the way up to graduate researchers, make sure to listen in to learn more about life as a student in research. So welcome to the Choose UCalgary podcast, you guys. Thank you for coming on to the show. I'm just going to start us off with just a quick introduction. So if you could share a little bit about yourselves, your programs, and then how long you've been working with Dr. Shelley Alexander, that would be appreciated.
My name's Steven. I'm a third-year veterinary student in the DVM program, and I've been working with Shelley since my first year, so a couple of years now.
Oh, wow.
My name is Zoe. I've been working with Dr. Alexander for a little over a year now. I'm an environmental science student and also security studies, and I'm a second year.
I'm Dasha. I'm a fourth year education natural science student, part of the concurrent degree that the University of Calgary has, and I've been working with Dr. Shelley Alexander since last summer.
Nice. Awesome. So I guess just diving a little bit more into your positions with Dr. Shelley Alexander, are you able to talk about the different tasks that you complete within the Canid Conservation Science Lab and Wildlife on Campus initiatives?
So most of what I do involves field work at the veterinary campuses. So a lot of what I do is camera trapping and wildlife tracking. So I'll go around the Spy Hill campus and change batteries on the camera traps, do things like change cards and other maintenance activities, and then get that raw data sent off to the main campus lab.
And I just walked the cameras on the campus themselves, and I replaced the card data and just uploaded it, coded some card data for the lab.
I work as a wildlife educator, so in the summer that entails creating little programs for the summer camps of the University of Calgary, but throughout the year I help make educational outreach, so posters, we collaborate, we try to communicate and collaborate to get outreach out there, and we also do information booths.
Nice. And then how has your involvement in the conservation lab enhanced your understanding of concepts learned in your coursework or across your degree? So we've got a little bit of science representation and then a little bit of education science representation. So is there anything that you kind of work on with the conservation lab that also kind of goes along with your coursework?
Absolutely. I went on a field course actually, and thanks to this lab, it helped me with some tracking and just some identification that I didn't have before, and it really helped me excel in that course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just to go off that point, it's one thing to learn about some of these different research initiatives in the classroom, but to have the opportunity to really put it into practice and actually do some of these things really helps you to get a more well-rounded research experience.
Definitely, yeah.
Well, for the education side, it definitely has been a lot of figuring out how to take information and transform it into student-friendly language and really learning about that science communication factor.
Yeah, definitely. It's really cool that there's kind of different elements that you can all kind of gain from being involved in the lab. If you were to give any advice to any prospective students interested in wildlife conservation on just how to get involved in general, so whether that be with research, volunteering, or anything like that, what would that advice be?
Go to events. Absolutely. I wouldn't have any of the opportunities if I just didn't go to events. That's how I met Dr. Alexander, as I listened to her talk at an event. I went to Eco Impact Night and just met my current employer there, and then you just get a lot of networking done, and that's really big in this field, I think. Just because it's up and coming, but it's also shoved to the side sometimes. But yeah, it's definitely a lot of networking.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the big thing is just to figure out who on campus is engaged in the different research initiatives that you're interested in, and really be proactive about reaching out to them and figuring out what opportunities are available to undergraduate students. There's so many different researchers at UCalgary who are working on projects that are on a lot of different topics in the wildlife sciences, but I think the big thing is for students to be proactive about taking that step to reach out and engage and see what kind of opportunities are out there.
Yep.
I definitely think Google is your best friend. You can find a lot of volunteer opportunities from a simple Google search. I know I found my job just through investigating the UCalgary website for job postings.
Yep. Yeah, definitely taking advantage of all those resources, all those in-person events and online events, and there's many events that go on, so definitely take advantage of those, guys. Now kind of focusing in on Dasha a little bit, what has been your favorite initiative that you've worked on in regards to your work with material creation for kids camps or working with the Living with Wildlife on conflict prevention?
So the program is fairly new. It only started 2 summers ago, so last summer, 2023, it was a lot of making new ideas. And so one of my favorite things was something my coworker from the first year noticed, that a lot of the campers are repeat students. And so we decided to diversify our weeks and have different themes. So we'd have a week about coyotes, a week about birds, and we were trying to really wrap it all in for just general wildlife education. And I think my favorite one was the one we did about pollinators, and we let the students paint their own little pots and planted a native Calgary flower and just talked about the importance of pollinators and having native wildflowers in our gardens.
Yeah, that sounds really cool to kind of help with that, wildlife conservation at a young age and making it kind of fun and exciting and something that's, really interesting for kids to kind of learn about during the summer, especially when all the wildlife is really out in the summer. And then, Stephen, as a veterinary medicine student, how does being involved in the Canid Conservation Science Lab help you in your professional or academic goals of becoming a veterinarian?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think within the veterinary profession, it encompasses such a large scope of practice, including every species except for humans. So with my main interest being in wildlife conservation and wildlife health, it's really been up to me to seek opportunities outside of the DVM program which complement that core curriculum material, which is obviously more focused on domestic species, but having the opportunity to work with Dr. Alexander's lab has given me the opportunity to apply some of those concepts to free-ranging wildlife, which is what I'm mostly interested in.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Being able to take that, out of classroom learning and put it back into the classroom, it's kind of that all-around learning that you can do around the clock instead of just in class to kind of help supplement everything. And then lastly, Zoe, you work quite a bit with gathering and coding camera data. How has this helped you in gaining experience for future careers or within class? You did mention that you have a current employer. Did you feel like your experience with the Conservation Lab helped you kind of get to that point of being employed?
Definitely. Even though I took a field course and I went to all these events, the thing that impressed my employer the most was just hands-on experience. And they really loved that I just had some experience coding pictures, field work, just being out there and actually doing the things instead of just learning in the classroom. It really helped.
Yeah, definitely. It's just that extra stuff on the resume that you don't really think about, that really adds and makes you stand out. And having those volunteer opportunities and having that different experience, hands-on experience, really does help make your resume stand out to employers all across the board. How has the collaboration with Dr. Alexander and with fellow students in the Wildlife Conservation Lab helped to contribute to your develop as a researcher? So what collaborative aspects might appeal to prospective students who are interested in the topic? Any events or any kind of mingling events where you can just get to know everybody, or just anything that's a part of the lab that you feel like can really be beneficial?
Yeah, so one of the projects that I've been really lucky to be involved with has been a collaborative project, not just with Dr. Alexander, but also with a couple faculty members within the veterinary faculty. So that project was looking at COVID-19 in urban wildlife. And I think being part of these sorts of interdisciplinary projects involving different experts from different fields has really made me realize the importance of teamwork and collaboration, and that these kinds of collaborative projects are really what makes up the foundation of good research experiences.
And I would say that Dr. Alexander has definitely been like one of my biggest networking points. She introduced me to a lot of people and someone I hope to work with in the future. And also just getting to meet environmental or other wildlife related students is really important. I found it a little bit difficult in the intro like bio level classes, but with like through the lab I can meet people who are like-minded, come from all different fields, but still have the same like objectives.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to stay in the loop on all things UCalgary? Make sure to join our email list so you don't miss key updates, events, and insider info to help you start your journey to becoming a UCalgary Dino. Register at the link in our show notes. And then what made you, just in general, what made you want to get involved with Dr. Alexander? Was there any specific thing that stood out to you that was really just drawing you in, whether that be the research or the data collection or anything like that, that you were really just like, that's exactly what I want to do, that's what I want to be involved with?
Just seeing her work, honestly, it was just really impressive. I love human-animal conflict and just looking into that and just field work in general. And I really liked how she sees it in a positive light and deals with a species that is deemed technically a pest, but still sees it in like a wildlife form. And I know that can get a little bit difficult and some people don't really care. Like I grew up with farmers, so coyotes were just kind of like whatever. Mm-hmm. But I just really like that we can look at every species, including humans, and just keep an open mind and look at the conflict between that.
Yeah, I think I'd like to echo that. And for me, it was about not just finding an opportunity to engage in really interesting research and get some really good experience, but also find a lab with similar values and sort of a similar outlook to conservation. As was mentioned, coyotes are a kind of controversial species, so being able to work with Dr. Alexander, whose lab really values things like animal welfare and non-invasive research methods, was really attractive to me as a prospective student.
Definitely. And then because you guys all impact campus differently, so, you know, Dash, you work with kids who come to campus for, you know, camps, and then you guys, you work with the trail cams and everything like that. In what ways have you seen a positive impact of your research or your conflict prevention on campus? So whether that be, you know, in the campus community, in the community that you see, or anything like that.
Well, I definitely can say from the camps, they do feedback at the end of each week, and the kids more like every week said that our program when we came in was their favorite part of the summer camp. They really enjoyed it. They found the information very interesting, and a lot of these kids, I feel like, gathered a new sense of love for animals, and they learned so much. Definitely from the information booths, we've had several people come up to us and tell them they think that what we're doing is amazing, and they hope that we collaborate more and like do more information booths everywhere. And so it was very lovely, especially this one lady that came. She came day after day on campus, and she was just asking us all these questions, and she was just so excited. And I think that was really amazing just to hear the public feedback saying that they love wildlife outreach.
Mm-hmm. I really liked, and I thought it had a really positive effect, just the education that they have. Like I see a lot of posters around here, and the stuff I learned in the lab, I can really just turn it over to my friends, a lot of which are international students and never really had experience with wildlife. And I can just tell them like what I learn, and it really echoes to them, and they're like, oh, I never knew that. Like that's very helpful to the wildlife. And then they tell their friends, and it just goes throughout the campus. So I can definitely see like everyone's very open to wildlife once they know about the issues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are both great points. And I think as a student body, especially at Spy Hill, where I am, you know, we see the coyotes all the time, but really being able to engage in this sort of research raises a lot of awareness amongst that student and faculty body, so that even though we only see them periodically, having things like the camera trap data and some kind of tangible things that we can bring forward really allow us to learn how we can better share these spaces and promote human-wildlife coexistence.
Yeah, I've been to the Spy Hill campus where the veterinary medicine kind of program is, and it's definitely out there a little bit more than the main campus is. So do you have cameras at Spy Hill?
Yeah, so we have a handful of cameras at Spy Hill, which is obviously the main veterinary campus.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have WA Ranch, which is a little more of a remote property. So it's kind of nice having the 3 study sites that we can compare amongst one another. The ranch being the most rural,
Mm-hmm.
Spy Hill kind of falling somewhere in the middle at that periphery of Calgary, and then the main campus cameras, which are a little more central.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to kind of have, it a little bit more spread out. So you've got some like main campus focus and then a little bit more in and around Calgary. And now last question here, if you were to have one piece of advice to pass along to prospective students who are interested in wildlife conservation, what would it be? So it can be related to wildlife conservation, or it can just be advice on how to get involved, how to put yourself out there.
I think similar to your earlier question, for me the biggest thing is just to find opportunities to volunteer at a local level or get involved at a more grassroots level. I think the conservation field can seem a little bit intimidating and competitive at times, but being able to volunteer and get these different experiences, I think, makes you a more competitive candidate for opportunities further down the road. So it's just a great way to get your foot in the door.
I think for sure just network the crap off. I know everyone says like, oh, first year just focus on like getting through it, but honestly, like it's all about who you know and who you've talked to, and it's such an up and coming field, conservation. Like almost every company has to hire some sort of person that deals with that.
Mm-hmm.
And like I just can't stress enough. Just get out there and talk to people, go to events. Don't just go to classes, but actually like figure out what you're interested in and then try and meet those people who are doing that.
I definitely agree with you too. I think I was very fortunate and lucky to get the job that I have because of my previous experience myself for this job. But I think if you were looking for more of the research factor, I know that my friends who are in honors, they say that networking is your best friend. Definitely attending social events, talking to your professor after class. A lot of the time they'll have extracurriculars or they'll be posting opportunities on D2L shells. And so definitely just having those one-on-one conversations, most of the time the professors are very willing and exciting to work with you.
Shelley, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Stephen was part of the One Health mentorship program, and so incoming students can think about watching for those mentorship programs where undergrads can or students like in vet medicine can approach somebody and actually be part of a formal mentorship program if they want. This group as well are part of the surveys on campus, and again, the surveys for attractants on campus, and that things that they are doing have direct impact because they see things like garbage that's left strewn around. That's a problem for all wildlife. They report to me, it goes straight through to the grounds who can come and clean that up, so it keeps our campus healthier, and that's happening every week. The outreach booth and posters and social media and the summer camps, one of the things that has been really great, I think, in that is bringing the student perspective and the student style and the student initiatives to students rather than coming down from above. You just get a different lens on it because it's it's people speaking to their own contemporaries and then younger. And education really is the core to coexistence. So for me, anybody learning the skill set, helps with that. Also, we've been able to, through the Living with Wildlife outreach booth and the summer camps, go to community social events like the Friday night market or Wednesday night market at West Campus, where the community comes in. And I've stood and observed that and watched. And one of the fantastic things is that when it's, undergrad students or graduate students at those booths, there's just more receptivity from the community to that. There just isn't, it's a cleaner kind of engagement that way. And also, volunteerism stands out also to potential supervisors. So if you're thinking about going on to grad school, and I wanted to say that while we were sitting here, I was looking out the window and I saw a squirrel, great big squirrel, and a rabbit chasing each other around the green space. And one of the things I love about this university is that, we have a vibrant, living urban ecosystem here two Canada geese just took off and flew past the window. I know we've got deer, bobcats, coyotes, and other species just thriving in the area. And I think what that tells me about University of Calgary is it's proof of concept that we can all coexist. So
yeah, definitely. It really is very cool to see how vibrant and how alive the campus is. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciated talking with you guys, and I'm sure that prospective students are going to love listening to this. Students always want to hear about how to get involved and students' lives, basically, what you guys do instead of, outside of just going to class, how you make your degree a little bit more vibrant than what, you would get by just going to class. So thank you so much for coming on today.
It was a lot of fun. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you for listening to part 1 of the Canid Conservation Science Lab and Living with Wildlife Initiative podcast with Dr. Shelley Alexander and the UCalgary students involved in her lab. In the next episode, we're going to be speaking to the graduate students in the lab. If you'd like to learn more about living with wildlife on campus, click the link in our show notes. As always, make sure to follow us on Instagram at choose.ucalgary and on Facebook at the University of Calgary Future Students. Make sure to send us a DM if you have any questions.